Everyone, welcome to my channel. What would you do if your own family turned against the love of your life? What if the people you trusted the most gave you an impossible choice? Your marriage or your family name? This is not a movie. This is the heartbreaking reality that Little People Big World stars Zach and Tori Roloff faced. For years, fans admired them as one of the most grounded couples on reality TV, raising their children with love. But behind the smiles and picture-perfect family moments, a storm was brewing. A storm so strong that it pushed Zach and Tori to make a decision that would shock the world. They sell everything they own, leave behind the home they built with memories worth millions, turn their backs on fame, and walk away from their family roots. Yes, you heard it right. Tori Roloff and her husband Zach Roloff had been struggling with family disputes for a long time. Eventually, they made a life-changing choice. They sold all of their properties, including their beloved home, for $1.9 million. After the sale, they decided to leave the United States permanently and move to Canada. At the same time, they announced that they would no longer be part of the Little People Big World show on TLC. One of the main reasons behind their family conflict was Zach Roloff's mother, Amy Roloff. Allegations arose that Tori Roloff was treating her mother-in-law badly. Upset by this, Zach Roloff's mother told her son, "Zach Roloff, if you don't divorce your wife, Tori Roloff, then from today you are no longer my son. I will not accept you as my child anymore." Hearing such harsh words from his mother deeply broke Zach Roloff's heart. He realized that the only way to escape this turmoil was to leave everything behind. So he sold all his property and moved to Australia with Tori Roloff in search of a new life. This is the story of betrayal, heartbreak, and a life-changing decision that would take them all the way to Australia. Will Zach ever repair his relationship with his mother, Amy Roloff? Can Tori and Zach truly find peace in their new life? Or will the shadows of their past follow them wherever they go? To understand why Zach and Tori's journey ended in such a dramatic way, we first need to look back at where it all began. Zach Roloff grew up in the spotlight. From a young age, his family opened their doors to millions of viewers on TLC's Little People Big World. Fans watched him grow from a curious little boy into a young man navigating life with dwarfism, family expectations, and the unique challenges of living on the iconic Roloff farm. For years, Zach's life was defined by the farm and the show. But then came Tori. Tori met Zach in 2010. Unlike many who were fascinated by the Roloff name or the TV cameras, Tori saw Zach for who he truly was. She wasn't drawn to fame, she wasn't chasing attention, she was simply a girl who found something real in a boy who had been surrounded by cameras for most of his life. Their connection was natural, genuine, and refreshingly simple. Their love blossomed away from the noise of fame. They went on dates, shared quiet evenings, and built the kind of bond that many reality TV couples failed to achieve. By 2014, Zach knew he had found the one. He proposed, and the couple tied the knot in July 2015 on the Roloff farm, the very place that had been central to his entire life. The wedding was more than just a ceremony. It was a fairy tale moment. Fans of the show adored Tori immediately. She brought warmth, patience, and a sense of calm into Zach's life. For Amy and Matt Roloff, his parents, Tori seemed like a blessing at first. She was supportive, kind, and willing to embrace the unique dynamics of being part of such a famous family. Soon after, the Roloff household welcomed the next generation. In 2017, Tori and Zach became parents to their first child, Jackson Kyle Roloff. Fans fell in love with Jackson instantly. The little boy, full of smiles and energy, became the heart of the family's new chapter. 2 years later, their daughter Lilah was born, and in 2023, it completed their trio of joy with baby Josiah. With 3 children, a supportive marriage, and a strong fan base, Zach and Tori were seen as the success story of Little People Big World. From the outside, life seemed perfect. They had a home filled with laughter, a show that gave them financial stability, and a family that fans looked up to. Zach and Tori were role models, proof that love could thrive even under the spotlight. But reality TV is never as perfect as it seems. behind the cameras, small cracks had already started to form. Little disagreements with family members, misunderstandings that grew bigger over time, and slowly, an invisible tension started to pull at the foundation of Zach and Tori's seemingly perfect life. No one knew it then, but the seeds of conflict had already been planted, and soon they would grow into something that could no longer be ignored. Every family has its disagreements, but when your life is on television, every small misunderstanding has the potential to grow into something much bigger. For Zach and Tori, the early years of marriage were filled with joy. They were raising Jackson, navigating parenthood, and still filming for Little People Big World. But as time passed, the dynamics within the Roloff family began to shift. One of the first signs of trouble came from the ongoing disagreements surrounding the Roloff farm. Zach, being one of Matt and Amy's children, had always been deeply connected to the land. The farm wasn't just property. It was history, family, and identity all tied together. When discussions began about which of the children would take ownership of parts of the farm, expectations ran high. Zach dreamed of buying a portion of the farm and raising his children there. He wanted his kids to experience the same wide fields and rustic traditions that shaped his own childhood. But negotiations didn't go smoothly. The farm became a source of stress, not joy. Tori, who had always been supportive, started feeling the weight of these conflicts. It wasn't just about money. It was about legacy, family pride, and the invisible pressure of living up to expectations. Behind the scenes, whispers began. Rumors spread that Tori wasn't fully supportive of Amy, Zach's mother. Some claimed she was distancing Zach from his family. Others suggested she wasn't showing enough respect to Amy, who had poured her heart into raising her children and keeping the family together. Whether those rumors were true or not didn't matter. They started to take a life of their own. The tension grew during family gatherings. What were once warm holidays became careful balancing acts. Simple conversations turned into misunderstandings. Small disagreements turned into arguments. And with the cameras rolling, both sides often felt judged not only by each other, but by millions of viewers who thought they knew the truth. For Tori, being painted as the outsider was painful. She loved Zach deeply and cared for their children, but she began to feel like she was being blamed for problems that went beyond her control. Zach found himself stuck in the middle. He was both a husband and a son, trying to keep peace on both sides. But as months passed, the invisible wall between Tori and Amy grew higher, and soon it was impossible to ignore. The breaking point came one evening when a family discussion turned into a confrontation. Amy Roloff, Zach's mother, had always been outspoken. She valued honesty even when it hurt, but this time her words cut deep.
Tori, whose love for Zach had always been rooted in genuine admiration, never imagined her marriage would be tested by the very people who had been part of their lives for so long. As time passed, her relationship with Amy grew increasingly strained. At first, she'd hoped it would improve. After all, she wasn't just marrying Zach, she was becoming part of the Roloff family. Yet, the weight of the legacy that had been built on the farm, the television show, and the fame that came with it was far greater than she had anticipated. Tori found herself questioning whether she was ever truly accepted into the Roloff family, especially with Amy's words and actions that felt more like rejection than inclusion. Zach, too, was torn. He had always been deeply loyal to his family, especially his mother. She had been his rock growing up, guiding him through the challenges of dwarfism and helping him navigate a life that was, in many ways, defined by their public life. He could never have imagined a time when his loyalty would be questioned, or worse, would come at the cost of his own family, Tori and their children. The escalating tension reached a boiling point one fateful evening. Zach and Tori were having dinner at the Roloff farm, the place that had once been the heart of their family's gatherings. The table was set with their favorite dishes, and the kids were happily playing in the background. But beneath the surface, the mood was heavy. Amy and Tori, who had once exchanged pleasantries with ease, now spoke in curt, distant tones. Zach tried to lighten the mood, but his efforts fell flat. It felt like a wall had been erected between them, and no one knew how to tear it down. Tori tried to keep her emotions in check. After all, this wasn't just about her. It was about her family, her future with Zach, and the children they had brought into this world. But she couldn't shake the feeling that she was slowly losing the connection with the Roloffs that she had once cherished. She wanted peace, but she wasn't sure if that was even possible anymore. Zach, feeling the strain on his own shoulders, found himself caught between two worlds. On one hand, he was trying to keep his marriage intact, protect his children's future, and support Tori. On the other hand, he felt an overwhelming sense of duty to his family and the farm that had given him so much. As the dinner progressed, the silence became unbearable. Tori felt every word, every glance from Amy cutting deeper than the last. And Zach, despite his best efforts to mediate, could see that this moment, this evening, could change everything. It was that night when things took an irreversible turn. The argument started innocently enough. Amy had made a comment about Tori's parenting style, which felt more like a critique than an observation. The comment triggered something in Tori, who had been holding her emotions in check for so long. She couldn't take it anymore. Words flew out of her mouth before she could even think, and the verbal exchange that followed was unlike anything anyone had expected. Zach sat in stunned silence, unsure of what to say or how to stop it. His heart ached as he realized that this was no longer a simple family disagreement. This was something deeper, something that could not be fixed with words. Tori, feeling the full weight of the moment, excused herself and stepped outside, seeking solace under the stars. Zach followed her, his heart heavy with the realization that their family dynamic had shifted forever. He found her sitting on the porch, her eyes red from crying. He sat next to her, not saying anything for a long while. He didn't need to. Both knew this was a defining moment in their lives. As the wind whispered through the trees, Zach placed his hand on hers, and for the first time in a long time, they were truly alone in their thoughts. "I don't know if I can do this anymore, Zach," Tori whispered, her voice filled with uncertainty. "I love you, but I don't know how to keep fighting for something that seems so broken." Zach's heart broke for her. He had always prided himself on being able to fix things, whether it was repairing the farm's fences or handling the challenges that came with being part of a family in the public eye. But this was different. This wasn't something that could be fixed with hard work or effort. This was about love, respect, and feeling like they both belonged in the same world. "I know," Zach whispered back. "I don't know what to do either. I've been trying to keep everything together, but it feels like we're falling apart." And so they were at a crossroads, a place where no amount of love or determination could fix the fracture that had appeared in their family. The decision they made that night would set in motion everything that followed. The next few weeks were filled with silence. The cameras of Little People Big World continued to roll, but for Zach and Tori, their lives were no longer just about filming a TV show. They were fighting for their family and their sanity. Every conversation, every glance from Amy felt like an accusation. Zach was torn between his loyalty to his mother and his loyalty to his wife. Tori, on the other hand, felt like she was the outsider, the one who was never truly accepted by the Roloff family, no matter how hard she tried. Eventually, the tension reached a point where the only option left was to walk away. They made the decision to leave the United States, to walk away from the farm, from the cameras, from everything that had defined their lives for so long. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the only decision that made sense for them, as a family. They sold their properties, packed their lives into boxes, and prepared to leave everything behind. It wasn't just a physical move, it was an emotional one as well. They were saying goodbye to a life they had built, one that had been shaped by the expectations of family, fame, and the constant pressure of being in the public eye. But they were also saying goodbye to the pain and the brokenness that had come with it. And so, as Zach and Tori made their plans to leave, the realization began to set in. They were walking away from everything,
The farm, the TV show, their families, but they were doing it for each other. They were doing it to protect their children, to protect their love, and to build a future where they could be themselves without the weight of the past constantly hanging over them. But even as they prepared for their new life, they knew the journey ahead would not be easy. They would face challenges, both internal and external, that would test the strength of their relationship. But they were ready. They had each other, and that was all they needed. And so, with heavy hearts but hopeful minds, Zach and Tori Roloff boarded a plane to a new life, leaving behind the familiar, the painful, and the broken. They were ready to start over, ready to write their own story, one where they could define their happiness free from the shadows of their past.
When Zach and Tori Roloff boarded the flight to Canada, it wasn't just a move to a new country, it was a symbolic gesture of rebirth. They were leaving behind a life that had been defined by cameras, expectations, and the weight of family obligations. They had chosen each other, chosen their children, and most importantly, chosen peace over turmoil. But as they would soon learn, peace was not something that could be easily achieved. The initial days in Canada were both exhilarating and exhausting. There was a sense of freedom in the air, a fresh start in a land where no one knew their names and no one expected anything from them. But with this newfound freedom came a deep sense of loss. They missed the life they had built, despite all its complications. They missed the Roloff farm, the place where Zach had grown up, where memories of his childhood were so intertwined with the land. It was his family's legacy. It was where he had first learned the values that had shaped him into the man he was. But in the same breath, it was also the place where the tension had built to unbearable levels, where the cracks in their family foundation had begun to show. Adjusting to life in Canada wasn't easy. For Tori, the first few months were particularly difficult. She had left behind everything she knew. The friendship she had cultivated, the familiar streets of Oregon, and the community that had supported her through the ups and downs of her relationship with Zach. She found herself struggling to adapt to a new environment. Canada was beautiful, but it felt like a foreign land. She wasn't just a newcomer to the country, she was a stranger to herself. Her identity had been so closely tied to the Roloff name, to the fame and the TV show, that now, with all of it stripped away, she felt as if she were learning to walk again.